Ladies and gentlemen, Happy New Year and welcome to Fourth and Frames. I'm Red Manuel here with our special guest tonight, Hoove. Drew Scott right below me. Nate Markham couldn't be with us tonight dealing with some personal issues. But tonight, we're still here talking about Week 18 Smash or Pass players. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get it popping.
This should be played at high volume, preferably in a residential area.
Thank you guys for locking in with us tonight on Fourth and Frames. Don't forget to like and subscribe and review to catch a new podcast anytime it drops from Fantasy and Frames. And starting in 2025, which now starting today, you can search for all of our podcasts here at Fantasy and Frames by searching up the name of the podcast wherever you listen to them. Spotify, Apple, doesn't really matter. You look up Fourth and Frames, you can find the link. You can find Dynasty 365. You can find Shoot the Gap. You can find whatever it is you need just by looking up the name of the podcast. Also, don't forget to subscribe to us here at Fourth and Frames, and also lock in at fantasyandframes.com with the offseason coming up. Right now, we still got rankings, IDP rankings, but we're going to have Dynasty articles, draft stuff coming up soon, takes, news and notes, all kind of things where you can find actionable action to win your fantasy football championships and even your fantasy hockey championships. But let's talk to the guest of honor, Hoove. How we doing, baby?
Oh, we are feeling mighty good today. We are rolling off of celebrating the new year. I was celebrating with a bowl of white chicken chili. That was my highlight last night because we had a glass of champagne, but we also had a glass of champagne after the Pros with Joe's win. So we're feeling good this week. We're excited to kick off the rest of the new year, with some great fantasy advice. But it's week 18. We're not on the 2025 yet. We got one more week to go. And if you're a sicko out there that makes this the championship week, please, shame on you.
But Hoove, I also just made a couple of observations here. First off, can't help but to notice the stunner shades. Also, is that a mink that you're rocking tonight, my guy?
Oh, we bring the flyest, all right. We don't dress down. We don't dress down for these podcasts, baby. We're
not
here to
even for week
entertain.
18. We're good.
Even for week 18, there's no days off when it comes to fashion. Whether it's Canton, Scott Fishbowl draft, a podcast, I'm coming to represent, baby.
We love it. We love it. So, Drew, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I had a good, nice, relaxing New Year. I didn't even see the New Year for the first time in a few years. I was in bed about like 11 o'clock, up nice and early this morning. It was the way that I prefer New Year's now, man. So it was good. I've had some good time off work with the family. Probably shouldn't even be here. We shouldn't have to have the show because nobody should be playing their championships in week 18, but there are people out there that have to do it, so we're going to do the show. So I'm still glad that we get to talk ball for one more week because this is something that's going to be taken away from us very soon. So I'll take every week we can get.
Absolutely, man. So speaking of talking ball and speaking of week 18 and things that are going to affect your fantasy lineups this week, let's talk some news and notes real quick, fellas. Saquon eclipsed his 2,000 yards last week. He's literally he's 101 yards away from setting a new single season record in the NFL. And then we get the news that Saquon Barkley and the Philadelphia starters are sitting this week. Drew, I know it's the right call for the team, but for fantasy purposes and for the sake of this guy probably having what is, in my opinion, because of the way running backs are used today, arguably the single best running back season in NFL history because of usage. Man, this is kind of a crime and a disservice to him, huh?
It is. It's not surprising, though. I mean, they want to keep him healthy for the playoffs. And like you even saw whenever he had the chance to set his own single game record against the Giants the last time they played him, he the coaches said, "Hey, we'll put you back in for this," and he said, "No, let Gainwell, the rest of the guys get work. Like I'm good." Like so, I'm sure he probably was completely with their decision with the ultimate goal in mind. But it does suck for fantasy purposes because I mean the Giants, that's who they have again as the Giants this week. Like it's a great matchup. He would have smashed if he would have played this week, but I get why they held him out.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it. I mean, also one thing that people that are like, well, why wouldn't they? They're skeptical on the coach's decision to pull him for this game, and they're thinking, why not break the record? Like you've been wanting to break this record forever. Why not actually do it? And like the personality of Saquon, like you were talking about, just really kind of comes out in moments like this. Is people that are like that they've been around winning for so long that they just view it as accolades and just another thing to add to the shelf, whatever. But people that come from the Giants, that they know that they're not anywhere close to a Super Bowl. They actually get close to winning, and they want to be a part of that winning culture. So they're willing to sacrifice that. And Saquon's a dog. I understand why. Go chase the Super Bowl. Don't chase that record. There's no what's gonna come from you having that record. You getting the Hall of Fame faster? You're already first ballot.
Yeah, he's already headed that way.
There's nothing. It's just pride. So pride is the devil. All right. So go get a Super Bowl, Saquon.
Yeah, fair enough. Both great points on your part. Hoof. Listen, you got to be excited about the potential quarterbacks you have going on this week. I mean, we could have Jimmy Garoppolo going off. We could have Carson Wentz reviving his career. Tyler Huntley could be popping off this week. Josh Dobbs could be making a Renaissance 2.0, which is my way of saying they are pulling all of the quarterbacks this week. Anybody who matters pretty much isn't playing. So let me just ask you this. I mean, in terms of these potential quarterbacks that aren't great but have to be in that lineup anyway, guys like Garoppolo, Wentz, Huntley, and Josh Dobbs. Which of these guys are you actually comfortable starting this week, if any?
I feel like I've been on a really good heater with crap quarterbacks recently. I threw out weeks ago, I said, you guys should pick up Drew Lock. Look at the record, the remaining record that they have, that is opening, that if you're in a situation where you need to burn $3 on Drew Lock, honestly, just go for it. And then everyone listened to the reports and that they were going to go with Tommy Cutlass. And I said, no, this isn't the answer. It's Drew Lock. Don't listen to the reports. And sure enough, Drew Lock finally came through for me, and he dropped 45 against the Colts. But that's not the answer. I just feel like I'm on a good streak. And for someone that, even though he is a starting quarterback, someone that I'm really kind of skeptical of this week is Michael Penix. And I think that we're going to talk a little bit later about that. But Michael Penix this week, I am very skeptical on. And if I was going to start anyone, it's probably Drew Lock or someone like that.
Yeah, fair enough. Austin Eckler designated for return. Not much to talk about there. Arizona Cardinals out of the playoff race. James Conner out this week. Trey Benson on IR, which means if you're your running back depth in week 18, you're probably looking at Michael Carter or DJ Dallas out of Arizona this week. So either way, not great. And then the Dallas Cowboys releasing Ezekiel Elliott, finally putting us out of our misery with even having him on there. And our boy Chris Battistell, the GOAT himself, saying Saquon, our first ballot Hall of Famer.
No doubt.
No doubt. But Drew, what's your thought on that, bud?
I don't think he'll be first ballot. I think if he finishes up with some strong seasons in Philadelphia, I think he will be. I think he has a good shot to be a Hall of Famer. But I don't know. First ballot's tough, man.
So go ahead.
Having a career and doing what Saquon Barkley has done is no small test.
No.
When I think about
he's first team. He's first ballot Hall of Fame in terms of like God-given ability and talent and what he's worked up toward. But just like whenever you factor in the number of the games he's played, the stats he's put up, some of the limitations he had, Lord knows, have not been his fault. He's an incredible player. I just don't know if he's going to have the numbers to get him there, and I'd have to see him compared to the other first ballot running backs to really give you a better answer on that, I guess, because I'm kind of shooting off the hip here. I'm not sure how he stacks up compared to those other guys.
Yeah.
Have you guys been to the Hall of Fame yet?
No, I've never been. I've been literally outside the building, but never been inside.
Rhett, have you ever been?
No, never been.
All right, well, I'll take you through, and I'll take you a look inside real quick. And if anyone's out there that's ever been, you guys are going to know exactly what I'm talking about. Is that I don't want to spoil anything, but there's this beautiful example of talking about the Hall of Fame and in the top percent, and they showed the Empire State Building, and that the bulk of the building is all the players that have ever played the game in the NFL, and then the top percent, you start getting the tower, at the top of the tower, and then that's people that made it to college, and then you start getting to the sliver at the top, and then just the pole. That's like the 1% that make it to the Hall of Fame. And when I think about God-given ability to make it to that top percent, I think about guys like Saquon Barkley. So
I agree.
First ballot, baby. Come on. I want to see that mold.
Yeah, fellas, I just want to ask y'all real quick before we get into our smash and pass plays. Talking running backs, I need to ask all of us around the frames real quick. Who is your Rushmore running back? Who's the guy that you just had so much fun watching it? You're just like, man, I was privileged to watch that guy, and I was blessed to say this is probably my personal favorite of all time.
Oh, this is extremely easy. Who do you need time to think about this? Because I can go first if you do, but if not, I want the guest to go first. So
no, I'm from Wisconsin, so I've had a very close examination of this player in my young time as a football fan. So if you're going to say the same name that I'm thinking of, then you can go ahead and say it.
No, go right ahead.
You're not? All right. Well,
I think Drew.
I think I'm going to go with Adrian Peterson. Is that there was nobody more electric at the time than Adrian Peterson. I mean, I was the biggest LaDainian Tomlinson fan growing up when I first started, but my mom was a Packers owner. And so going to Packers games is going to Packer games as a kid, going to see Adrian Peterson torch the Packers defense. And the best that they had was like Ryan Grant to combat it, or Eddie Lacy. It's like Adrian Peterson is, wow, just phenomenal. Off the field, definitely questions about personality wise, but on the field, man, there was nobody better at the time. Chris Johnson too, another dog.
Yeah. Yeah, AP might be the best running back I've seen in my lifetime. Barry Sanders was before my time, things like that. As far as my lifetime, AP might be the best I've ever seen. My favorites, though, like my Mount Rushmore, my Rams fandom plays into this some, and I've been kind of spoiled. Between Todd Gurley, I think Steven Jackson's extremely underrated, but my favorite running back of all time is Marshall Faulk. Watching him as a kid in those Greatest Show on Turf era, what he could do both as a runner and as a receiver, how they used him in that offense. I didn't play fantasy at the time, but I have to imagine that he was a fantasy cheat code with what he gave you as a rusher and a receiver. So Marshall Faulk, he's my favorite running back of all time, man. There's nobody I've ever had more fun watching play the position.
Drew, you want to know what's crazy right now?
What?
That was going to be my answer, 100%.
Really?
Swear.
That's awesome.
No, yeah, just not even as a Saints fan. Like, there's just some of these guys that over the years and some teams, I don't know what it is about Rams running backs playing the New Orleans Saints, but they just seem to. It's a special form of torture that I've dealt with the Rams over the years. But Marshall Faulk just made it more fun to watch whenever that happened. So,
man,
AP hasn't qualified for the Hall of Fame yet, has he?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think he's been out of the league 6 years yet.
No, AP. I don't think AP's been out of the league or the.
Is he first ballot with an MVP on his belt?
Yeah, for sure.
I think he should be.
Then I don't like. I get that Saquon doesn't have the MVP, but like there is not much.
That matters.
There's
that
not
matters to the voters, though.
I'm
not saying it should matter to us, but that stuff matters to the voters, man. The accolades matter. The records matter. That those magic numbers and stuff like that, that matters to them, man.
It's not a hall of talent. Manning to be first ballot so that they can say.
I don't agree with that either.
They're going to say, look at the Hall of Fame Manning cast on Monday Night Football. You watch. They're going to push it. They're going to try. But if they're going to push Eli, give me Saquon first ballot. Chris, if you're listening still, you heard it here first.
He's here. He's listening. It's
the
same concern I have, man. Just that full body of work, some of which is out of his hands.
I've never heard Saquon and body in the same sentence and it not being a compliment. honestly.
That's fair. That's also fair.
All right, fellas, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get into these smash and pass players. But first, as we get closer to winning those fantasy football championships, what better way to capture your immortality than by getting your own Dynasty Deck championship plaque? So Dynasty Decks, or if you go to the dynastydex.com, they will provide you with a fully customizable championship plaque for any fantasy football league, whether it be on offense, IDP, doesn't really matter. If you have a head coach only league, they'll get you a plaque for that too, whatever it looks like. Just remember to use that promo code FRAMES and receive $5 off the purchase price, which is extremely affordable compared to other prices on other websites. So head on over to the dynastydex.com today and get that championship plaque. Our boy Chris Battistell said he won one. Good for you, buddy. I didn't win any this year, but you know what?
He sure did. He sure
we
did.
Gonna keep it moving, baby.
Listener League. So we got to give Chris a shout out to that. This is the first show since that Chris Battistell won the Fourth and Frames Listener League, and Jorge is providing the winner a Dynasty deck for winning it. So Chris will be getting his in the mail. So yep, that's that league did not go well for myself or unfortunately. Yeah, but hey, we'll just say that we'll keep it moving.
All right, we're gonna keep it moving into those week 18 smash and pass plays. Keep in mind that when we're talking about a smash play, it is a player that is outside of the top 20 wide receivers, top 15 running backs, top 8 tight ends, and top 12 quarterbacks in the Fantasy Pros Week 18 Expert Consensus Rankings. So, Hoove, I'm going to go ahead and start with you being the guest of honor. I called this name last week. I talked about the target numbers. I talked about how he's kind of been on a little bit of a heater, getting a little bit of rapport going. You're heading back to the well this week, baby. So talk about why my man revived back from the dead, the Lazarus effect with Chigakonkwo against the Houston Texans is a smash play for this week.
It's not sexy. It's not sexy. I'm not going to tell you it is. So I'll be honest. I get it. I was coming into the year and saying that the only Titans that I was probably going to lean towards was Tyjae Spears at the time. And not a great call on my part, I will proudly admit, but there's been times throughout the season that Titans players have emerged, and I haven't been the one to jump on those at the times. Like Tony Pollard didn't jump on that, probably should have. Calvin Ridley at the time didn't jump on that. But towards the end of the year, now it's Chigakonkwo finally emerging. And for the long haul, am I going to go trade for Chigakonkwo? Probably not. But we got to write on a good thing while it's happening right now. And if you're still out there and you're still needing points, why not take a shot on old Chigakonkwo? I mean, the last 3 weeks, he's had 10 targets, 11 targets, 7 targets. He brought in 8 of those, 9 of those, and 5 of those right off the bat. I mean, helping me secure my pros with Joe's championship because I needed him. And honestly, I was a little more skeptical to start Pat Freiermuth. And it was really a toss-up right this week between Chig and Pat Freiermuth for me on which tight end I was going to take a shot on. But I ended up going with Chig versus Houston. And I think that defense is going to have a lot of their starters pulled. So maybe Chig kind of gets some splash plays and tries to show the coaching staff that he should be a focal point in it for next year when they do bring in a Cam Ward.
Yeah, but I want to ask you a question about Chig this week and kind of maybe play a little bit of devil's advocate here because his production over the last 3 weeks has been with Mason Rudolph at quarterback. And there's kind of some reports this week that Will Levis and Mason Rudolph may both get snaps this week. So does that concern you any about the ceiling of Chig this week?
I don't. I think that it comes down to Chig. I think that's the narrative that I'm going to run with is like right now, week 17, when you don't have tape, you don't have starting quarterbacks, like you have Carson Wentz in and you have these backup guys in, is you're going off of, for me, this is kind of like how I like to do it, is what is going to be the nail in the coffin that this team is going to end the season on. And how can I factor that in? Because you know that's going to be what the talking point is for 2025 is, oh, well, the Falcons team had a great week 18 with Michael Penix, whatever the narrative is that's going to happen this week. And I think that Chig is going to really try to make it a focal point that he's the guy that if anyone was going to be trusted going forward, and you don't need to rip everything off the foundation, that there are still some pieces there that can work for the long haul. I really hope that Chig, no matter what quarterback it is, that he just demands targets and he hopefully can find his way into the end zone and really solidify that.
Yeah, that's one thing he struggled with, has been finding the end zone during this run he's had over the past few weeks. We have a question from Killa Foe. Killa, thank you for joining us tonight on 4th and Frames. He's asking us that even if Chase Brown is healthy, does starting him make sense if the Bengals are scoreboard watching and see that they are eliminated when the Broncos and Dolphins win? So I guess what it comes down to is, Drew, are you comfortable starting Chase Brown if he's healthy this week, or what?
Yeah, that's his health is what I'm more concerned about. As long as he's healthy, I'm playing him. I'm pretty sure the Bengals play on Saturday and the Dolphins and Broncos play on Sunday. So the Bengals are kind of in control. Yeah. So there you go. So the Bengals are still going to be, in control of their destiny up to that point. They'll need some favors on Sunday, but they still need to win on Saturday. And so, yeah, I think Chase Brown is a borderline RB1 this week, assuming he's healthy. The Bengals play the Bengals play. Who do the Bengals play? The Steelers. They play the Steelers this week.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's as far as matchups go, it's a tough matchup. I mean, over the last 5 weeks, Pittsburgh's been the 6th toughest matchup for running backs. But given the team's resting their starters and the role that Chase Brown has in the offense when he is healthy, as long as he's out there and active, I think it's going to be hard pressed to find other options where you'd be able to afford to sit him.
We appreciate you joining us with that question, Killa. And then our friend Hector Salas is asking us, hello, guys. Would you guys recommend starting Amir Abdullah? Also, would you start Adam Thielen or George Pickens? By the way, love your content. I will actually have a little bit about Adam Thielen in a little bit, but let's start with Hoove. Let's talk about it. You starting Amir Abdullah this week or what?
There's no reason to bench him right now. I mean, it's week 18. There's not going to be very much argument I can make about it. What are the options? What would be the options other than Amir Abdullah if you were going to? So that's probably where I'd lean. You'd have to have something spicier. And he's with all these starters not playing this year or playing this week, he's probably someone that just because he's not a fantasy asset for the long haul, he'll probably still remain the guy. So yeah, I'd probably start him. For Thielen and Pickens, I think we'll talk enough about Thielen later.
Yeah. I was gonna say I don't know if we're talking about Thielen, Pickens, Abdullah together, but I'll just say that of those three, my favorite is a guy that Red's going to talk about shortly. So just hang out and you'll hear why.
Also, we had a follow-up question that if Pittsburgh loses, Lamar likely sits out. Correct?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much their seeding can change based on the winner or loss, and then he's in the middle of this MVP race, right? Do they let him go out there and ball out to try to solidify that back-to-back MVP? I don't know. I truly don't know what the situation for Baltimore is. I haven't really heard them be brought up as if they're going to rest their starters or not. So I'm not sure.
I think he plays half. For sure. I think he'll play half to kind of give the team as much wiggle room as possible. And then he'll set the rest of the half. And then if they lose, they're not going to rush Lamar out there in the fourth quarter to solidify the win. I think that they're going to give him the best shot to win. They'll put in the backup and then they'll see the inevitable result. So you're kind of going to get a half the game of Lamar, in my opinion.
Yeah, which is still pretty good for most people. But let's get back into these picks. Hector, thank you for joining us. Drew, looks like you jumping in to the deep end this week. You're going full week 18 on us with your smash play. So tell us why Ray Davis and the New England Patriots. Why is that a place you want to go this week, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, if you're forced to play Week 18, one advantage you have is if you can take advantage of guys that are probably on the waiver wire before this week. And Sean McDermott said that he's planning on benching his starters other than letting Josh Allen play for a little bit just so he can keep his games started streak alive. He said they care about the streak. They want that to continue. So I'm sure he won't be in there long, but he'll be out there. But outside of that, it sounds like the starters won't be out there. So that means that we should have no James Cook this week, which leaves Ray Davis and Ty Johnson to handle the running back duties for the Bills. And it's a small sample, but in the 2 games that Davis has seen at least 10 rushing attempts this year, week 6 versus the Jets, week 13 versus the Niners, across 30 carries, he had over 5 yards per carry, and over 53% of his yards came after contact. And he also had 50% of the carries inside the 5-yard line. And this week, he'll be operating as the primary ball carrier. At least I think he will be, against the Patriots defense that's been the 5th best matchup for fantasy running backs based on fantasy points above expectations. So given the matchup this week, the volume that I think that he'll end up seeing, and the fact that I get to prop up a former Kentucky Wildcat on the show, Ray Davis, he's a smash play for me this week. He's a borderline RB1 for me on the week.
Nice.
I love that.
Yeah. Tell us why you love it, Hoof.
I mean, what was it, 20 touchdowns his final year in college?
Yeah, he balled out his last year at Kentucky.
Oh, just insane. So, like, if you need someone that's going to find the end zone, go bet Ray Davis anytime touchdown this week. That's a good bet. That's probably the only advice I can say is if you're not out there, you're not starting anyone this week because your championships are done, make sure you go out there and try to bet Ray Davis anytime touchdown. I like that.
Yep, I like that too.
A little bit of extra tidbit right there too. So getting into guys, let's stay on the running back train and let's talk about J.K. Dobbins against the Las Vegas Raiders this week. I mean, for me, guys, it's an easy call to start Dobbins, and it goes to his scenario. I mean, this has finally been a year. Yeah, Dobbins missed some time this year, but it's been the healthiest he's been since his rookie year. He's averaging a career high this season in fantasy points per game at 15.7 fantasy points per game. He's RB17 for the season, and he enters this week as the ECR running back 22. But this is a guy for me that has been extremely steady all season. Looking at his game logs today, he has not finished below a running back 3 in any game that he's played all season long. His worst finish is RB36 here in 2024. So he's been as steady as they come. There's a solid floor. And when you're playing the Las Vegas Raiders, there's just one thing we can always bank on: death, taxes, and a good matchup against the Raiders, baby. So, yeah, is there a possibility that they pull Dobbins and preserve him for the playoffs? Yeah, there's that chance because Week 18 is always a little bit impossible to predict. But at the same time, Jim Harbaugh was in the media this week talking about how he wanted to potentially improve the Chargers seed as well to possibly get up to that 5 seed. So there is a chance here that J.K. Dobbins is going to see significant action throughout the game. And in a week like Week 18 where you don't know who's going to be starting most places, you're pretty much doing dart throws. What an opportunity to have a guy that has had such a solid floor throughout the season with a significant snap share. And on top of that, when the Chargers played the Raiders in Week 1, they ripped off 7.7 yards per carry against his defense. I know that's a long time ago, but we need to mention it because that is another matchup that they had earlier this year. Yeah, the names might have changed a little bit, but it's still the Raiders, and they've probably gotten worse since then. So I expect the Chargers to do what they do, get into a little bit of a run-heavy situation where they get ahead. And even if they average less than 7.7 yards per carry, which, by the way, they will, you still should have significant volume and to see Dobbins have another really good week. So with that, J.K. Dobbins, running back 22, I think he's a borderline RB1 this week as well.
Yeah, Jim Harbaugh he doesn't strike me like the guy that's going to sit his guys. Like I think Harbaugh's going to have him ready to roll. So I like Dobbins this week as well. I'm going to quick fire a few of these real quick that we had come in. So Blake Corum, I had Kyron as my only other option. The Rams are probably going to rest their starters. You're probably going to get a lot of Blake Corum this week, but you're also going to get a lot of Jimmy Garoppolo this week. So it's going to be tough to be really excited about the Rams offense, given who it's going to be led by, even if, they're still going to be having the same guys calling the plays. I'm going to be a little bit more nervous about those guys that are going to be in the Rams offense. So Abdullah still might be the better option over Blake Corum, but I could see how that one would be close. And we appreciate you turning in. And then, yeah, Killa, Henry and Brown and then Davis and Wilson are the running backs, I would definitely be firing up Derrick Henry and Chase Brown for sure. But yeah, I like the Ray Davis pickup. If you're talking, I'm assuming he's talking Emmanuel Wilson, Josh Jacobs backup. Between those two guys, I would play Ray Davis if it was me. And I'm with you. I thankfully I don't have any Week 18 championships, but I hate them too, and I feel bad for you if you have to play in them. But I don't. Going back to this, would you guys play Wilson over Davis, or do you guys like Ray Davis this week? Brett Hoof?
No, I'm in on the parlay. Now I'm full parlay. I'm gonna go Ray Davis. I'm gonna go Ray Davis touchdown. I'm gonna go JK touchdown. I don't know if I'm gonna go over on the rushing attempts because I don't know what the number's at yet, but I'll go touchdown because that feels nice. And then I'll go Chig over. Let's say that the line's like 4.5. I'll bet the over. I'll bet the over on that too. So
I like this. I'm gonna go put this in until we get off the show.
That's hot. That's so hot. Come on, give it to me, baby. And then put something down for me from charity. You know, if it hits, donate to charity for me.
Yeah.
All right.
Love it. Fantasy Carrots on the way.
Well, we also have unders that we have to go through too. So we can't just put a 3-leg parlay.
Yeah.
We got a 6-leg parlay that we could probably hit tonight too. So let's get to the good stuff.
Let's do it.
And then Hector's also out here saying that he's just so conflicted starting Sam Darnold over Lamar Jackson, but he feels like it's right. Oh, my goodness.
Brother, I am not taking Lamar Jackson out of my lineup in the championship. It's a cruel world that you have to think about that and worry about him possibly being pulled early. And Darnold does have a great matchup against Detroit. Their defense is beat to shit. And so Minnesota should see some success in that game, but I don't know how you take Lamar out of your lineup in championship. He's my quarterback 1 on the week. Like, I'm just assuming he's playing the full game. So it would be so tough for me to bench Lamar, but at least if you do bench Lamar, your second option is something as solid as Darnold against the Lions. Like if it was something further down the line, like we're talking about like Penix against Carolina or Flacco against Jacksonville, that's one thing. At least you have a solid alternative if you want to play it safe, but I would struggle doing that personally.
Look, I'm gonna speak for Hector for a second. I'm gonna vent. So Hector, I apologize if this is out of pocket, but why do we get punished for being smart and picking multiple guys that are starting caliber, and then we have to come down and start sit decisions? This is crap. All right. Why do we get punished for picking the best teams, picking the best waiver pickups? We get punished. It's not fair. Hector, I feel you, but you got it. Lamar is the answer.
That's why Week 18 is so cruel, man. These incredible fantasy managers they end up getting punished, and all their great players that earn these great playoff spots, now they have no reason to want to play this week, and now we're all just royally fucked.
All right. So I just want to ask you guys one thing real quick. Yes or no will suffice. I don't even want explanations right now. Does Sam Darnold get MVP votes? Yes or no?
No.
Drew?
No. Are you talking about first place votes? Or just votes in general? Because like third, fourth, fifth, maybe. Yeah. But nothing.
No first place vote. Yeah. So
I think Baker gets one.
First place vote?
I don't think anybody but Lamar or Josh Allen gets a first place vote, but I definitely think Baker will get like some third place votes.
Watch. I'm so serious. Like you watch, it's gonna be like a Tampa Bay writer.
There's always one random person that does something crazy, so who knows? But it just feels so hard to not put a first or second place vote in for Allen or Lamar. Like I would love to hear the argument. I'd love to just have like a 20-minute sit down with the person that did that and listen to why they didn't choose Lamar or Josh Allen for top 2.
Look at the passing yards. Baker's got him.
And Hector's also out here saying
Baker's had a great year. I have nothing against him, but
Jared Goff might get one too. He feels like.
I think Goff and Baker are kind of in that same neighborhood. To be honest.
All right, fellas. So we got to keep this rolling. Let's get the ship back on course. Our second smash play for the week. Who you picked? Probably the man with the funnest name in the NFL to say, in Olamide Zaccheaus against the Dallas Cowboys. So why is my man smashing this week?
I was so close. I'm gonna double down on it, and there's not much I could stand on it with this one, but I was this close to picking him up for Sunday Night Football and putting him in instead of Tim Patrick. And then the way the waivers were, I wouldn't have been able to pick him up until Monday, and he would already played. So I was already feeling that he was going to have a hot streak. I'm going to go double down on it this week. And I'm going to say he doesn't put up what he had last week. I think he had like 22 points or something crazy like that with Zach Ertz against the Falcons last week in a revenge game. Might I add, maybe that had something to do with why he produced last week the way he did. But I think that Dallas is going to, they're still playing for pride. And so I think that because they're playing for pride and they're playing for Mike McCarthy right now, I think that they're going to try to shut down Terry, and that's going to open up things for him and for Zach Ertz this week. So regardless of how much we see Jaden Daniels, I think that we're going to see a lot of him.
Yeah, I think we see plenty of Jaden Daniels too. And I mean, the Dallas might have been full of all sorts of pride, but even with all that pride, they've still been the sixth best matchup for fantasy receivers over the last 5 weeks. So, like you want to start your pass catchers against this defense. Jaden Daniels is playing incredible ball right now. So, if you're struggling for options and you can put in somebody that's catching passes from Jaden Daniels in a matchup this good, and you can certainly find places for him in your lineup.
Bingo.
Yeah, for sure. So, Drew, go ahead and keep this train rolling. You have a guy who had a very slow start with some injuries this year, has kind of started to see those opportunities creep up throughout the rest of the season. So, Jalen Warren, Cincinnati Bengals, talk to me. Why are we working them with it this week?
Yeah, and so the Steelers, they're in the middle of a 3-game losing streak right now, which is bad news if you're a Steelers fan, but it's good news for the Jalen Warren fantasy owners, though. The 3 losses have led to plenty of negative game scripts, which typically also means more snaps for Jalen Warren, and he's played 50+% of snaps the last 3 weeks, and among running backs with at least 30 routes run, he's 8th in receiving yards, he's 14th in yards per route run, and he's 6th in target share, and he's also – along with all of that receiving work, he's only 1 less carry behind Najee over the last 3 weeks. He has a higher yards per carry or higher missed tackles forced per attempt and a higher yards after contact per attempt. It's not much of a surprise. Jalen Warren has been the more efficient running back for several years now. But the work is starting to kind of balance out now that he's had some healthy weeks under his belt. And he's starting to get more involved with the offense. And the Steelers, they're in another matchup where realistically we could see them start to trail considering what the Bengals offense is capable of and the fact that they're going to be playing for their playoff lives. So the defense is vulnerable, but the offense is not. They're not going to struggle to put up points, I don't think, anyway. Even though the Steelers do play the Bengals tough, I will say that much, that the division game, those two teams seem to play each other tough. But the Bengals have been the second best matchup for running backs over the last 5 weeks based on fantasy points above expectations. So the work is starting to balance out between Najee and Jalen Warren. I think Warren is just a better player. He's getting close to equal work now. He's working plenty whenever they're in negative game scripts, which I think I could see happening this week against Cincinnati. So given the role that he's had in the offense recently, the matchup in front of him this week, I think Warren is a smash play, and he's a high-end running back too for me this week.
Yeah, and I think Hoove agrees with you, but we'll talk about that bit. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Killer wants to come back, and he says he has Dameon Pierce, Josh Downs, Marvin Mims Jr., Zacchaeus, QJ, and Jameson Williams from Detroit. Which 3 are we going to play? Let's start with Drew and then go over to Hoove.
All right, give me just a second. I'm getting these players. So I'm assuming he's talking Alec Pierce and not Dameon Pierce. Yeah. We can probably put Zacchaeus in there. Since Hoove highlighted him already, I would put Josh Downs in there, and I think you have to put Jameson Williams, right?
Yeah, they got a lot to play for this week, so yeah.
I don't like it. Like, I've been fading Jameson Williams all season, and at the start of the season, I liked him, but I preferred other players. And then when you were seeing like some of the issues throughout the year, I just became a firm believer that I'd rather have someone else other than Jameson Williams. And he's not an afterthought of the offense, but he's not the guy that you really want in Detroit. But out of these guys,
compared to these guys, though,
yeah. Then you have this selection, it's like, sure, obviously I'll take Jameson Williams and take a bet. I was the guy that was starting Tim Patrick in my championship. So obviously, like, I know that carries can go around in that offense. So I'd favor Jameson here, even though I'm highlighting Zacchaeus this week. And then the Colts receivers, Joe Flacco is going to be in this week. You could see some pop there, but you know, I like Michael Pittman this week too. So I think that I'll ride with Jameson over the rest of the group.
Yeah, if we have to, if he's asking us to pick 3 out of those guys, it's Jameson Williams is like the clear number 1 for me, and then Josh Downs, Josh Downs and Zacchaeus would be 2 and 3, and then Quentin Johnston would be 4. But the 3 I'm playing would be J-Mo, Josh Downs, and Zacchaeus.
Yeah, I think I agree with that as well too.
Ooh, if it's 3, yeah, Jameson and Zacchaeus definitely. But 3 is a toss up for me. I can't give a firm answer on 3 yet.
Fair enough.
So, but what if we want to talk about guys that I'm feeling good, solid, firm answers about? Guys, Adam Thielen is Freaky Friday his 2023 season into 2024. Last year, he started off 2023, had that red hot start, and then finished the year tapered off. This year, he struggled with the injuries to start the year, and now here we are, coming in the end of 2024, building a strong rapport with Bryce Young, who is much improved, and playing the Atlanta Falcons, who, according to Player Profiler's metrics, are the 4th best matchup for wide receivers. And over the past 5 weeks, our man, Adam Thielen, Father Time cannot defeat him. 40 targets, 32 receptions, an 80% catch rate, and 4 touchdowns. And when we're talking about his matchup this week, the likely matchup, according to Player Profiler, is against not A.J. Terrell, but Zion McCollum, who has given up 51 receptions this year for nearly 700 receiving yards. I believe that number is 686. Compare that to A.J. Terrell, who has only given up 7 less receptions, 44, but has only given up 484 receiving yards to the position this year. And on top of that, one of the favorite things I pulled up today was fantasy points per game against at the cornerback position. According to Player Profiler, Zion McCollum has given up 9.6 fantasy points per game to receivers, which ranks him as the 98th best cornerback in that metric in the league. So if you're starting 2 or 3 guys, he is at the very bottom tier if you're looking at nickel sets in the NFL. So feels good for a player in Adam Thielen who is crafty enough to do damage against just about anybody. And I know the Carolina Panthers aren't great, but they have been pesky throughout this whole season. They won't lay down. It's a division matchup. They've got pride on the line. Dave Canales has had this team improving throughout the year. So I just think we're at a place where with Adam Thielen, he's in a spot to have another really strong day and end the season on a high note.
Get the chef out. He is cooking. We're right on the same wavelength right now, my man. I'm getting ready. I don't want to say too much because I got more to add about this Falcons-Panthers matchup this week in the next segment. But you and I we're moving right along.
Yeah, Adam Thielen's a guy I've been trying to write off for a couple years now, but he ain't been writing back though, and I'm done. I'm done with it. He's pulled a full Geno Smith on me. I ain't been able to write him off, and so I'm with you. I'm excited. If I have to play in Week 18, I'm excited that if I have Thielen in my lineup.
Yeah. So those are our smash plays to review. We went with Chika Okonkwo, J.K. Dobbins, and Ray Davis, and Olamide Zacchaeus, Adam Thielen, and Jaylen Warren. So let's move into our past players, guys. And if you've been watching with us all year, you know exactly what's up with these guys. Past players are guys that are inside the top 35 wide receivers, inside the top 20 running backs, inside the top 12 tight ends, and inside the top 20 quarterbacks in the Fantasy Pros Week 18 ECR that we are expecting to underperform this week. So, Hoove, I just got off of talking about Adam Thielen. You said more on that later. We are now here with later. You're telling me Michael Penix is a player that you do not want to see against the Carolina Panthers this week. So tell me why.
Tell me why. Oh, let's tell you why. All right. Now I get it. There's a lot of quarterbacks this week that they're getting opportunities, and when you're looking at guys like Drew Lock and Carson Wentz and the rest of the cast, it's like, how could you not want to start Michael Penix? But to go after what I was saying earlier, is that this is all storylines, baby. Is the Panthers, who were dead at the start of the season, are now gonna they're gonna upset the Falcons, who were just on the playoff push. And then when you look at the remainder of the NFC South, you have to think, wow, the Panthers are so hot. Maybe they're the second best team in the NFC South going into the offseason. And I think that's going to be the storyline. So I think that we're going to see a big Bryce Young, Adam Thielen game. I think that this Panthers team is going to come out hot. Maybe we see a Jatavian Sanders big game for Mike out there. If you're listening, you're out there. Big Jatavian Sanders game, hopefully. But for the Falcons, Michael Penix, is people might be thinking that we're going to see like a big Michael Penix game, as a statement, to end the season. Like, this is the reason why that they benched Kirk Cousins and we're going with Michael Penix and he's going to drop however many touchdowns. But that's not how you beat the Panthers. I think that if anything's going to happen, they're going to heavily depend on Bijan and they're going to heavily depend on Tyler Algier in the run game. And that's going to be their way to beat the Panthers. And that's not with Michael Penix's arm, and that's not his fantasy relevancy. So I think that Michael Penix is going to underperform just because the way that the Falcons are going to play. And overall, I think there's going to be better options because of it. Panthers are an upset alert.
Not bad at all. So Drew, Brock Purdy's getting shut down. So this probably has something to do with the decision this week.
Yeah.
Could also be the fact that you're not much of a San Francisco 49ers man at all. But nonetheless, this is a guy who has been up and down, mostly down throughout the season, definitely underperforming based on his fantasy football past to what he's doing now. So Deebo Samuel against the Arizona Cardinals. We know the Cardinals aren't great, but I could see you getting fired up right now. So go ahead and go in on why.
You watch your tone.
I think just for who. I had to throw a 49ers player in here. I'm a Rams fan who's a 49ers fan. I had to throw this in here. Look, you could do worse than Josh Dobbs when it comes to backup NFL quarterbacks, but Debo's value immediately took a hit whenever we found out that Brock Purdy wouldn't be playing, and that's before you even talk about the matchup. Now, on the surface, you see the Cardinals on your fantasy app. Your players going against the Cardinals. The Cardinals haven't been a great team. Maybe you're thinking it's a good matchup, but they've been the third toughest matchup for wide receivers over the last 5 weeks. They're giving up 5.4 fantasy points below expectation to the position. They've been more of a run funnel defense lately. The running backs have had some great success. So, I wouldn't be surprised to see Garendo have a good week this week, but I don't think it's in the cards for Debo. They're also giving up the fourth lowest fantasy points per game to receivers that line up out wide over the last 6 weeks, which is where Debo has lined up on over 65% of his snaps over the last 6 weeks. So, he has had 8 rushing attempts across the last 2 weeks. I think he had 3 last week, 5 the week before. So, you have that to where he could possibly give you a small floor because of that. Maybe he gets in the end zone because of that. But given the matchup, given the downgraded quarterback, and given the fact that I got to talk shit about a 49ers player with Hoove in our presence, Debo is a pass for me.
It's not fair. It's really not fair. Some people – either they get good looks or they get smarts, and I guess Drew gets both, and that's just the way the cards lie.
Yeah, but, right. You're too kind, man.
But when you look at this year with the Cardinals, I'll give a little bit of credit where credit's due. Is it's one of the reasons why the Cardinals have been such a big question mark. Is you think that you add Marvin Harrison with Kyler Murray that this team's going to be explosive and they're going to be great. No, it's still a Jonathan Gannon led team, and that he wanted to fix the defense, and that's the priority this year, and that's exactly what they did. And so this defense looks really good. And if I'm going to make the point with the Panthers and the Falcons, I also need to make the point with the Cardinals, is that the Cardinals are looking to make a statement going into the offseason as well. And what's a better statement than upsetting the Niners in a statement game in Week 18? So I don't like it, but just the way the cards lie, and you got to call it when you see it. So I'm a Niners fan, but out of all the Niners fans, I pride myself on being an unbiased one as a journalist. So I will say that you have a very fair point, even if I don't like the words that you're saying. And you better watch your tone when you're talking about my young king, Brock Purdy. All right, that man deserves a contract.
I'm not saying that he hasn't played well enough to deserve it, but I just cannot wait to see everything start to crumble whenever they aren't benefiting from having a quarterback on a 7th round rookie contract and the building blocks and the hoops you have to jump through that comes with that, considering where they're already at with the cap basis and things like that. I'm just, it makes me feel good to see what they're going to have to do roster wise once that happens.
You know what? How about you worry about getting some fans in your stadium before you start worrying about
That's
what
the thing
doing.
about me,
Right.
is I'm not an LA guy, so I don't give a damn about how many people are at those games. It makes no difference to me.
We'll be fine. We'll be fine.
All
we
I
got Kyle.
All I care about is the Rams have won a Super Bowl in my lifetime. You know what I'm saying? So like that feels good. That
53 mil for Brock Purdy. We'll be fine. Let's move on before I have a brain aneurysm. All right, shall we?
Oh yeah.
Thank you for the segue, because I'm going to go ahead and let's keep it in a division. Let's make Drew, as if he didn't make himself feel good enough already, let's gas him up a little bit more, and let's talk about why Zach Charbonnet is a pass this week against the LA Rams. It is such a shame for the Seahawks because they've had a pretty good season. They're 9-7. They should be firmly in the playoff hunt.
It's not enough.
Not enough, baby. They were eliminated from playoff contention last week. So they've really got nothing to play for. And the Rams have the possibility of getting the 3 seed. So now all of a sudden, the Rams have something to play for. The Seahawks don't. And Drew, this is where I'm going to stab you in the heart a little bit. You remember that Saquon Barkley Week 12 game?
Couldn't forget it if I wanted to. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's incredible.
It was something else for sure. But since then, I don't know what they saw on film and what they adjusted, but they've been nasty against the run since then. And they were pretty solid against the Seahawks in Week 9 as well, where they only gave up 27 carries for 91 yards and only 13 fantasy points against the position. And since Week 13, which is when they went on this run, the Rams have given up 12, 14, 6, 10, and 9 fantasy points to the running back position. So it's been a hell of a run over these past 5 weeks for the Rams, and it's coincided with this hot streak that they've been on. So it's been a very good run defense against a team that they know well. And like I said, they've still got something to play for and the possibility of locking up this 3 seed. And on top of that, Zach Charbonnet has done a great job catching balls out of the backfield this year. That's been part of his strong part of his value. The Rams have only given up on average 4 receptions and 34 yards per game to the running back position this season. So I'm not a fan for this matchup for Zach Charbonnet against this Rams team who happens to be peaking at the right time. And that is why I'm passing on Zach Charbonnet this week.
Drew, I think that you can take it here because even though I wanna hate on the Seahawks with you, I really do. I want to, but I've also been a huge Ryan Grubb guy. I've been a huge JSN guy from the start.
Same.
JSN fan club.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
And then Geno Smith as well, as I thought Geno Smith with Ryan Grubb, that Ryan Grubb was going to simplify this offense in a way that it's just going to unlock. And they didn't. I thought that they were the team that was going to end up taking the NFC West with us, struggling this year. But alas, it was the Rams that did sneak it out in a poor division this year. So, yeah, I will give them that. But it's not the Seahawks this year. I think that Mike McDonald will be in the playoffs next year for sure. So I'm not worried about it.
No, it wouldn't surprise me at all either. I love JSN. I love what they've been doing with him. I'm with you. I've been a part of the JSN fan club. But yeah, Rhett, to your point, the Rams, they've been really tough against running backs. They're one of the toughest matchups over the last 5 weeks. And McVay did say they're trending towards setting their starters. But, their offense has a lot more of like clear starters than the defense does. There are some more rotational pieces. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the defense rotate in some a little bit. So that doesn't scare me away from calling that a pass, despite the fact the starters might not be out there. But they've been to this question in the chat. Do you play Geno with them having incentives? I think the fact Geno has incentives And the Rams, while they've been tough against running backs, they have been the 5th best matchup for fantasy quarterbacks over the last 5 weeks. So Geno, I think he's a borderline QB1. If you look at the Fantasy Pros expert consensus rankings, they have him as quarterback 14, but Flacco's in front of him. I would play Geno over Flacco. I would play Geno over Michael Penix this week. I would play Geno over him, and Bryce Young is close. But so Geno's a borderline QB1 for me in 12-team leagues. So it really just depends on, I guess, what the structure of your league is. But I think, okay, so I have Russell Wilson and Geno Smith, who you're starting. So this is a good question. You've got Russell Wilson against Cincinnati, which has also been a good matchup, and you've got Geno Smith against the Rams. So two good matchups. So it just comes down to which quarterback do you like more, Geno or Russ?
I'm going Geno here in this matchup.
Rhett?
Yeah, let's go with Geno as well, too, in this situation.
Yep, and we'll make it 3 for 3. I would also go Geno.
Yeah, you bet against those Rams, right?
I'm a Geno fan, man. I like Geno. I like the Seahawks are the team. I don't mind the Cardinals either. As far as the NFC West rivalries go, it's literally the 49ers, because they've been the team that give us the most trouble over the years. So of course I'm going to hate them the most. Like, it's just,
you don't give us trouble. You guys are just like little brother.
Whenever it matters, we give you trouble. How'd that playoff game work out?
Little brother syndrome. It's always something. We're banged up, and all of a sudden their four elite players take them to the playoffs, and now they think they're hot.
We're little brother, but how many Super Bowls have you seen in your lifetime?
I don't want.
Because I've seen 2. How many have you seen? How many has Big Bro seen? Because Little Bro has seen 2.
Look, I got arrows in my back. If you want to twist them, that's fine. But eventually, I'll pull them out, and I'll be walking with them. Okay, so.
I'm just letting you know where Little Bro's sitting. That's all.
Little Bro's got one.
Loving the trash talk tonight. And Hoove, you still have one more pass player you want to talk about. Drew told us why Jalen Warren is going to be a smash play this week. So you've decided, being the nice, agreeable young man that you are, that you said Najee Harris against the Cincinnati Bengals, not a place you want to go. So tell us why Najee is a pass this week against.
I don't like agreeing with Drew. I don't, but when I do, I also know I'm on the right track. Is when I agree with Drew. Najee here, there's no commitment that he's going to be back in Pittsburgh next year. Jalen Warren's the guy. I bet the over on Jalen Warren last week. I believe that hit, even though the parlay overall didn't. So Jalen Warren's just the guy for the future. I was talking about it earlier on the other show, where Najee Harris could potentially land this offseason, and even the market for him just isn't hot. He's probably like one of the most valuable free agent running backs, but even then, that's not necessarily like sexy by any means, is going out and signing Najee Harris. So I think that with what fantasy managers at one point thought of Najee Harris, it has flipped completely versus how the rest of the league views him. And we could be seeing Najee Harris, like with what he produces, being in a split backfield like Tampa Bay, or something like that, being in a 3 running back system. So I'm just not impressed with what I've seen out of Najee. It's just he's been a depreciating asset. And even as someone that doesn't love Jalen Warren, he is the hot hand right now. So you got to run with it.
Yep, I agree completely. I'm worried about Najee, but he does seem like the running back that's going to just be like a pain in your ass for he's gonna make some backfield more complicated than it should be this offseason. He's going to take a team friendly deal because the market's not going to be that hot, and it's going to be a pain in somebody's ass. But that's a problem for the future.
The Rams.
yeah.
The Rams.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I was going to say, it sounds like a future New Orleans Saint if I've ever heard one either.
Yeah, I can see that.
Oh, that's disgusting. All right, let's move on before I actually throw up.
All right. So, Drew, I saw a graphic earlier this week talking about rookie rushing yards and Bucky Irving being at the top. Then we had Jaden Daniels. Number 3 was Tyrone Tracy. He's had a very solid season. The Giants, we know they're not great, but even with the Philadelphia Eagles planning to sit their starters this week, why are you taking a pass on Tyrone Tracy?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a class full of disappointments at running back. Like Jonathan Brooks, he saw Chuba get extended, which is basically just like a glorified 1-year deal. But he got extended. James Conner got extended in front of Trey Benson. Marshawn Lloyd was banged up. Blake Corum, we haven't seen much of. Like this running back class has largely been disappointing outside of Bucky and Tyrone Tracy. But I do think that you should look for other options this week. Like if we're talking about running backs inside the top 20 in the Fantasy Pros expert consensus rankings that we're concerned about starting Tracy, he just sticks out to me. It's been rough lately. Like he hasn't been a top 15 running back since week 14, and he's been under 4 yards per carry since week 12. Among 63 qualified running backs over the last 3 weeks, Tyrone Tracy is 51st in yards per carry. He's 35th in explosive run percentage, and he's 40th in missed tackles forced per attempt. Like it's been rough, man. And it's kind of unclear still on if the Eagles are going to sit their starters or not. I don't think they've really said. It makes sense for them to. I don't know how they're going to go, but regardless of what ends up happening with that, the Eagles have been a tough matchup for running backs. They've been the second toughest matchup over the last 5 weeks. It's hard to project that out if we don't know who's starting for the Eagles, but I don't love the matchup. Tyrone Tracy, it seems like he might have hit a wall. Devin Singletary isn't going away either. So if I can, I'm trying to find other options to start this week.
Yeah, I'm glad we're bringing up Tyrone Tracy for Trade Block, even though it's a dynasty show and we're talking redraft or weekly rankings right now. Is Tyrone Tracy's just been such a big pain in my side this whole season, just a big question mark on it. But I think I'm right. I'm not 100% sure. I think so, but I'm not there yet. It gives me the same feeling that I had about Tyjae Spears going into the year. Is I think that from what I originally thought about Tyjae was that I thought that he was going to be the hot hand end of the year, but he wasn't going to hold on to the role enough from the organization in 2025, and that you were going to see some pop from Tracy, you're going to see some pop from Spears in this analogy, but it also, like, you kind of knew that they weren't going to be the RB1 of that team for the future, so it just opened up for the team to draft like a Travion Henderson in the draft next year. So like the only argument I would make for Tracy would be with the whole narrative argument going into the offseason, where if he's gonna like try to get any reps next year, because Brian Daboll likes Devin Singletary. Like, he's not going to go anywhere. I don't think Devin Singletary is going to get cut, but people are going to push for Tyrone Tracy to get opportunities if he does ball out. And so I feel like he has to ball out this week to kind of earn some reps and earn his role next year as well. So it could happen. I'm going to bet against it. So I'll stick with you on this one.
Yeah, like he's one of those guys to where if there's somebody, if I am in a dynasty league, if we're talking dynasty, if there's somebody in my league that's convinced that Tyrone Tracy is the running back of the future for the Giants, I'm selling immediately. Just be like with him, the ups and downs of his rookie year, it's been solid. And I mean, he hasn't been playing the position for very long, but with the ups and downs of his rookie year, the fact that he is still a day 3 draft pick, it's just very easily replaceable. And this draft class is so deep at running back that like there's a lot of running backs that could be drafted on day 2 that I would feel a lot better compared to Tyrone Tracy if they were on the Giants. And so like I could see his value end up taking a huge hit. Maybe he survives draft season, but if I had to bet, I would be betting against that. So if there's somebody in my league that's convinced Tyrone Tracy's the guy, I would be trying to capitalize on that and try to get an early 2nd round draft pick that you can use to end up drafting the guy that's going to take his job.
Guys that survive draft season aren't guys like Tyrone Tracy. Like
right.
guys like
Ramondre
Stevenson or, Rashad White, before last season with Bucky.
Yeah, no, that's happening.
They gave out a little bit more than what Tyrone's doing. So I'm going to need a little bit more from them to see it.
Yeah.
But we got one more, I think. We got one more fade.
Yeah, we got one more fade. So let's talk Caleb Williams against the Green Bay Packers. I mean, guys, Caleb has been confusing this year. There have been moments where he's been superb. There's a 4-touchdown game earlier this year. There have been moments where the offensive line has absolutely let him down. He's starting to get a little bit of happy feet right now. He's been sacked 67 times this year. And I think the future is bright. I don't think we're writing him off just yet. I think we need to see where that coaching decision is going this offseason. I think there are better days ahead for him. But right now, we're not talking about better days. We're not talking about next season. We're talking about week 18. And we're talking about him playing a Green Bay Packers defense that, admittedly, I made a mistake last week in saying that they would shut down Sam Darnold. And Sam Darnold failed me miserably in that situation and made me look real bad. But I don't think the Packers are going to let that happen twice, because I think we're looking at two very different caliber teams in that situation, obviously.
Yeah.
Minnesota still had a lot to play for last week. The Bears have nothing going for them. Their season is pretty much done. It's just another spot where it is a bad situation for Caleb Williams. We're not going to dig too much into it. He's been inconsistent all year. It's a bad offensive line playing a good defense. So it's just looking like another one of those things where Caleb he's going to reassess things this offseason, go into the lab, figure it out, come in with a new coach, hopefully get some consistency in there, and be back better than ever next season. But as terms of week 18 and this week, it's just a pass for me.
As I mentioned earlier, my mom is a Packers owner. And so when she got her tickets this year, she was like, I ain't going to go to a January game. So she gave me the Bears Packers tickets. And I've been so cold at work recently that I'm like, I just don't want to sign up to go to a Packer game in January. So I sold the tickets. And I'm going to use the money to pay for my hotel for Canton this year. So
there you go.
It's so much better than, sitting in the cold and watching Caleb Williams. I thought that when she gave me the tickets at the start of the year, I thought, wow, I get to see Caleb Williams. I just got to go to the draft and watch Caleb get drafted. I watched Rome get drafted, part of the media, and got to be right next to Rome, and I get to see him play in Lambeau. And as the season continued, I'm like, I ain't going to this game. There's no reason. So I love this pick just because that means that I don't have to regret it. I don't have to regret not going to the game. So I love it.
All right, guys. So that puts week 18 in the books. Looking at our past plays, who went with Michael Penix? I went with Zach Charbonnet. And Drew went with Deebo Samuel. Then Hoove came back with Najee Harris. I went with Caleb Williams. And Drew went with Tyrone Tracy. So before we get out of here, Hoove, you're a man of many hats. You were doing so many things at all times. So tell our listeners, tell our community what you've got kicking right now, my man.
I'm kind of taking it easy right now.
Ooh.
When you win an awesome championship like Pros with Joe's, you got to come down. You got to take it easy for a little bit, but that's just temporary, baby. Tomorrow I got a new Kirk Cousins article coming out at Club Fantasy. That's where you'll be seeing me at the moment right now, is at Club Fantasy FFL. So we got top 5 Kirk Cousins destinations coming out tomorrow. We got Aaron Rodgers top 5 destinations the following week, and then we have rookie profiles coming up in the meantime, up until the combine. You can look to see combine content. I'll be down in Indianapolis at the end of February, as well as up in Green Bay at the draft. So we are really getting into it. This has been such a fun year, just such an awesome year of really just diving back into content and really kind of doing weekly stuff again. I'm so looking forward to 2025. So it's been really fun. I'm really looking forward to what's going to happen with Club Fantasy and everything else in the future. So that's where I'm at.
Drew, your plays and fades were done for Fantasy and Frames. So what you got going on right now? Plan on taking it easy? Plan on taking a Bahamas vacation? What's going on, bud?
Yeah, I wish. No, I will take it easy for a little bit. I'm going to take some time off. We've got we've got our year-end review show next week where we're going to talk about the year, how it went. We got a 2-round redraft going, things like that. And then for Fourth and Frames, that's our last show until we're back to talk 2025 NFL free agency on March 19th of 2025. So we've got a little bit of a gap for Fourth and Frames for the redraft show. I'm going to use that time to get into the Dynasty bag a little bit, start focusing on prospects, get the rookie rankings together, everything like that. I think I'm going to make some appearances on the Dynasty 365 show that was before us. do a little bit of work on that. I love Redraft, don't get me wrong, but I love Dynasty too. So I'm going to get into that a little bit while we've got some time off. So I'll be on Dynasty 365 while Fourth and Frames is off the airwaves for a couple months. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. I think the off season is damn near just as fun as the regular season is. So I'm looking forward to this time and getting more acquainted to the prospects that, you know, our Debbie and C2C folks that are deep in the weeds, get more familiar with those guys.
Yeah, man. But before we get out of here, guys, we've been wondering who is it that plays Week 18 fantasy football and is excited about it. He was with us all this time, fellas. He said, our boy Scott White said he feels like it's a waste of time if fantasy football ends in Week 17. His PPR Deep League has already ended, and he feels like it ended too quickly. So,
Scott. I don't have anything to say. That's the only thing that's come to mind. Is just Scott. We love you, man. We love you, man.
We love you.
That's all.
It's I
no
get
buts.
It, man.
No buts.
Nobody wants to see a football season end. But whenever your fantasy championship could possibly be riding on the fact that Michael Penix Jr. and Joe Flacco and Geno, I didn't want to say Geno, but Aaron Rodgers, like these guys are borderline top 10, top 12 options this week. Like, with the people that sit out and stuff, I mean, it just doesn't do your fantasy teams justice to have these players that could have led you to a championship and now you don't get to play them. So I get it. I don't want to see the football season end either, but it's for the better of your hard-earned roster that you do this.
So many reasons. Like there's so many. I said this and I got a little clap back from it, but like this season of all seasons is the season you want to keep going. Like not me. A playoff league this year after all the injuries that we've had, after the tight end market crash, like no, like 1-800-GAMBLER. If that's what you're thinking, 1-800-GAMBLER. All right. Sicko hour. But.
Yeah. So, fellas, we got to get out of here. It was a blast having you on tonight, man. Such positive vibes. Just a good time having you all around. You know, the door's always open for you. Anytime you want to come back with us, just let us know, bud. Drew, pleasure working with you. Second year in a row, almost in the books, but we got one more week. We're going to be back, bounce right back on them, have a good time next week as we always do. So we're going to go ahead and get out of here. For me, at Manual Sports, for my man Hoove, for Drew, at Drew3MR, and our man missing in action tonight, Nate Markham, at Nate Markham, we out. Toodles.
This should be played at high volume, preferably.